All right, well, this fisherman, how's it going, fisherman? I am just now back upstairs. Went to go grab some stuff downstairs. Let me, hold on a second here. Got my vents going on. See if anything good's going on over here. All right, we'll look at all that here in a little bit. Zorgel, how's it going? Also, I'm getting texts from somebody, so I gotta go check see what those are. We're on a Friday, so Fridays we don't work too hard, guys. In case you didn't know that. Also, sounds like my grass is getting cut outside, so hopefully that's not too loud. Also, I'm sitting here munching on some cold crazy bread. Everybody here know what crazy bread is? Oh man, that's just good. All right. So again, not working too hard just yet. Checking out the home lab. Looks like things are working like I expect. I gotta check these messages real quick, so hold on. I'll be back. See what kind of messages we got here. All right, well, that's good news. One of our guys is going to host an AWS workshop. By the way, people think I'm more vendor neutral. I probably do lean more to AWS, as that I have 5 of their certs right now. But I respect Azure for what it is. Like I even said the other day, we were talking about the things that Microsoft does well, and like, look, Active Directory is so good that even though they're in direct competition with AWS, AWS still has an AD component to it, even though that's directly their competitor. That's just how good Active Directory is. So I'm munching away on these little spongy crazy breads real quick while we kind of get started here. But yeah, it sounds like one of our guys wants to run a workshop, so that'd be cool. Other things we got going on tomorrow, we've got the Bash study group. That's always free. You guys can go to that, hang out, do Bash. Because of the popularity of that, and because we have so many people on the other side of the planet, we started a late night Bash study. Now this is late for us, but for some of you guys, that's early morning. Just gotta look at it in your time, right? Sending Grounds is going to talk interview prep. So people that want to talk to somebody who's in Fang or Mang or whatever the hell they call that nowadays. He's in there and he can help you get there. Tell you what the interview's like. He shows you what his interviews are like when he interviews people, which is a big part of his job. We're going to start doing maintenance on Sunday nights. So if people want to see some of my maintenance work, that's when I can take the lab down if I want to. Since we're going back into production mode on the lab. And then we got a professional pen tester coming out to talk about what it takes to get these certs, what it takes to do his job. His company is always hiring. I see them all the time on LinkedIn asking for people to come do that kind of work. So, all right. Those are our events. I've been working in the sandbox, and we've got more stuff popping up in the sandbox to show you guys how to get into our environment, stuff like that. All this is directly pushed via webhook and Ansible. Pretty easy to push this stuff. This is getting cleaned up tomorrow because my calculations for this were wrong. I'm using the wrong server address, but I'm going to have that fixed here tomorrow. Well, it's fixed now. It's just I don't want to blast the output, and I'd have to reset the machines to get that to drop down. So I might as well just wait 24 hours and let it clean itself, right? So tomorrow morning, late tonight, this will go off, and these will be significantly lower numbers for the last 24 hours, and then the next day it'll disappear all entirely. So our reporting will be back to correct, and everybody will be, well, most people won't even know what happened, but they'll be happy that it's working better. At least that's the theory. All right. We've got a lot to do today then. I just gotta start it. Give me a second here. Still stuffing breadsticks in my mouth. So, I'm putting together a Warewulf presentation for ProLUG and for work. And the first question is maybe, what do we do around here? And those answers will be slightly different whether we're talking about ProLUG or Redline. So ProLUG, teach people about Linux and Linux jobs. If we're talking Redline, we build HPC and supercomputers for customers, right? And then that's those are kind of the ways that's going to work. And then I'll just probably present one slide depending on which one I'm talking to. One set of slides will be for ProLUG and one set of slides will be for Redline, right? That'll be different, different with whatever we're doing. All right, good. How do we build? So teach people. Right. So that's going to tie it in a little bit. How do we build supercomputers? Or I guess another way to look at this, or alternatively, what are supercomputers, right? And that will be definition, right? And that definition comes heavily from NIST 800-223. Maybe since I'm kind of building an outline, I guess we could say the definition has some description probably, and then it probably has some type of, like if we stop this here from rotating, right here in fact, whoops. Then it has like these main components that I would say are kind of important to all of this, right? So description, maybe diagram, whoops. And then maybe components, right? And then what we would do with that, and then one of the things in the components section, right? And we could switch this up or make this back to A again if we wanted to, typically, or we can even go further down depending on whatever hierarchy we're using. Let's just we'll go back to A. It doesn't really matter. And then we would say maybe one of those is our cluster services, right? And then as we're kind of talking about this, we would come down here, and maybe the next thing we would do is we would say I'm gonna break these out as we go, but for now, since the talk that I'm going to give is about Warewulf, and we're asking questions at each of our mid, at our high level, the next one will be, how does Warewulf work as a a cluster manager, right? So, some of you guys have heard me say that Warewulf is a cluster manager, right? It does all of these things that it needs to do. And what are the things that Warewulf kind of does, right? And I have back here some of the things that Warewulf does in an environment, right? But as I bring this together here, this is going to also include some other things about it as I start to pull in kind of my thing here. But so how does Warewulf work as a cluster manager? And this will really be kind of the crux of the talk, and that'll be where I spend the most time. And some of the things that I went and did, funny enough, was I put together some little drawings on this. I had some AI throw some crap together. So what is Warewulf kind of doing, right? Right, and these drawings represent different questions that I asked about what Warewulf's actually doing, which I think is funny. How does it do those things? Images, system overlays, runtimes, and kernels. And then what is it actually doing in the environment? It's pushing those things out to servers, right, as they ask for them. So we need to talk about how those things are happening, and those are going to go into the presentation, right, at each of the right areas. Also, you guys may notice that I'm stopping every now and then to eat the last of these breadsticks up. I am eating crazy bread from Little Caesars. Well, it's from lunch. Warewulf takes over an environment. We know that from the home lab, right? In our home lab environment, Warewulf comes up and he has a bunch of things that he starts to do in the environments, right? Master My Fate, you said, are there any Linux books you would recommend? Yeah, actually, there's some really good ones out there right now. Over on Humble Bundle. Whoops. If you go over to Humble Bundle right now, there's actually a really good book bundle that a lot of the guys have been talking about. I can tell you at first glance, let's look at how much this is. So it's $25 for all the books, right? But so it's minimum $25. But the books that I know that are for sure going to be good out of this, I can tell you only the ones that I know for sure, is going to be Mark G. Sobel right here. And you might say, well, Scott, how do you know that Mark G. Sobel's book is going to be good? Right here, Mark G. Sobel. How do you know his book's going to be good? Well, I taught out of his other CentOS 7 and CentOS 8 book in the early 2000s at ITT Tech when that was open, and I thought he had a really good book layout. So while this is not the same book, it is a different book, but it's a practical guide. It's very similar, same author. I'm sure the topics are great. So I know that this book is good. And again, I taught out of that at a college level for many years, his other books, right, at ITT Tech. So I thought that's a very good book. Go over to the right a little bit. The other books, and look, I'm not saying anybody else's are bad. I'm just saying the ones that I can speak to for sure are these next ones over here with Brendan Gregg. If Brendan Gregg's name is on it, it's good. That's all there is to it. These charts and his website, Brendan Gregg, has some of the best Linux performance stuff on the web. Just understanding. I mean, look, these are all commands and how they interact with the Linux system. So his books are good. His books come in two different flavors here. One is system performance, enterprise in the cloud, huge. Those are two terms that if you can get good at them are, valuable to you in the Linux world. And then also BPF or eBPF, as they typically call it, is performance tuning all the way down to the kernel level. So these are excellent books right here. I don't know about any of the other ones, But I'm going to tell you for my $25, if I was buying these, that would be worth it, just those 3 books. Just this book would be worth the 25 to me right here, the Mark G. Sobel. But I can tell you right now, if you guys have watched my stream ever before, which I know you have, the Brendan Gregg stuff, I probably show his website once every couple weeks at least. His stuff's good. So those that's a valuable set of books there. I obviously have my book, but I wouldn't take my book over those guys' books if you were spending the same money, right? So that's my thoughts on that. But back to Warewulf real quick. What is Warewulf doing? Again, he's taking over the network. He's taking over some range. He turns on DHCP and TFTP and NFS and SSH, and he does all of these things in the environment. So Warewulf takes over an environment, right? And what does he do? Warewulf runs DHCP and assigns identities for iPixie. Boom. Right? So in an environment, systems can DHCP from only one place. You should only ever have one DHCP running in any network. That's simple networking. And in our case, whatever network that is that Warewulf's on, he takes it over. Warewulf right? So Warewulf keeps an inventory of all systems in the environment. Warewulf provisions servers via TFTP and gives out right? It gives out appropriate components. The components it gives out are images. It gives out images. It gives out system overlays, and it gives out runtime overlays. Right, so those are things that Warewulf does. That's what it does in our home lab. Does do that. We'll say so Warewulf manages the entire environment. And what I mean is power and let's say console control. And what's that other tool? Not IPMI. It's IPMI tool, but it's not something LAN. It's there's a name for that tool. But you can have console control of all your servers. So you can power status and reset capabilities on the nodes. So know like if they're on or turned off or rebooted. I don't really use these two functions in my lab because I have another way to do those with my out of band management over here. But this is how it's done in the professional world. Typically, is Warewulf manages the entire environment, power status, reset capabilities. We'll just say console controlled all servers via IPMI and console server software. That's fair. And then so then 4 will be, how does Warewulf build and configure node images? So how does Warewulf look at like how the nodes look inside of it? So in our environment, maybe like auto 1 is one of our nodes, and here's this whole configuration that can be set, right? And we can configure and define all of these different things about the auto 1 system, or we can dump everything, right? And this is just going to be a hot mess to the screen, and it's all of the different systems. But then maybe I just say I want like IP ADR, right? And now if I needed a mapping of just like IP addresses in the network, I could find them. There's probably other clean ways to find them as well. Obviously, it defines our host file for us. It builds all that. But what I kind of want to show here as I'm talking through this will be how does Warewulf build and configure node images. So A will be importing and customizing images. Well, we used to call them containers, images, right? So you can images, customize images. And some of you guys yesterday or in other labs have seen me doing my build out, and I was adding these different things for like the Rocky nodes. So then when people jump in, right, when you come hop into our Discord here and you go down into our ProLUG Lab environment, and then you jump into one of our automation setups, you automatically get dropped into these nodes, right? How's it going, Sending Grounds? I'm just I'm walking through. I'm putting together a presentation. Work asked me to. We do these brown bags, right, at work, and every few months it comes up to you to do a brown bag. So for me, I got asked to maybe put together a little brown bag for work, and typically they're 45 minutes to an hour. You can go a little over an hour, but for the most part we speak for about an hour. And I was laying out what Warewulf does in an environment, because see, so I'm gonna do it two ways. I'm gonna do it one for ProLUG, so there'll be a slide for if we do it for ProLUG, and then there's gonna be a slide for Redline when I do it for the company. And the question is, and I do a lot of my presentations because I find that people do well when you ask them a question and then they're pondering the question as you give them the answer. It's almost like when you ask your dog, who's a good boy? And then you show them that they're a good boy, but nobody ever actually tells the dog that they're a good boy, right? Or in your case, a good girl, right? Right, for your dog. But my point is, I ask, what do we do around here? And then we talk a little bit about what we do. And with ProLUG, with our group, the central problem or the reason we exist is to teach people about Linux and Linux jobs. Sometimes we use these supercompute, high-performance compute type ideas to impart Linux to people, right? Or to show them that there's this type of job path. Well, then Redline, my company, we build HPC and supercomputers for customers. We also maintain them. Build and maintain, right? HPC and supercomputers for customers. And a big part of, so then I would say this for each of these, so either point above, lots of new stuff is being managed and built with Warewulf. So I kind of define the need there, right? The fact is that this tool exists and it does things, and it does things very similar to other things that already exist to do this idea right here of scheduling so resource managers are a little different, and so are schedulers, but and front end as well. But for the provisioning and the cluster services are completely maintained by Warewulf nowadays for a lot of stuff. Older tools, and then look, how do we build supercomputers, or alternatively, what are supercomputers? And I'm going to give this NIST diagram, and I'm going to give kind of the like 10, 15 minute, maybe even shorter, high level overview of what that is. And I've done that with this group before. We actually have a talk that's up in the Discord for people that want it. And that talk looks like this for anybody that cares. I think I have it as HPC. Hold on. I think it's called my ProLUG HPC talk. HPC topics for ProLUG. So this is an older talk that I've given, and I do want to update this one with Warewulf involved. But this one is get out of here, right here. This is an older talk, but then we go into, you know, what are HPC systems, and at the high level, what are the concepts and technologies that are involved in compute nodes, cluster managers, and this is where Warewulf fits right in here. It does what XCAT or Shasta used to do, or HPCM. HPCM is still being used on some big clusters that I work on, right? But Warewulf is kind of slid in and doing a lot of the stuff now. And then we get into like what those cluster management servers are, and that's kind of what I'm doing over here. Is actually that's down here. How does Warewulf work as a cluster manager? Well, Warewulf takes over an environment. It takes over the whole environment, guys. That's what it does. And it wants to be in charge of everything. So back here again, when I'm building this, you're going to see me grabbing these. The reason I threw them up here was so I can go grab them. He doesn't know what he wants to do, and then he takes over the environment and starts. I think it's funny. This is called Full Moon Builders. I did not tell the AI to do that, but that is hilarious to me. So we're going to use it. Full Moon Builders. He's in charge of everything, right? And I mean, it kind of makes sense. You can't have two different bosses telling you what to do differently, right? So Warewulf runs DHCP and assigns identities for iPixie boot for nodes. So when you guys have seen my nodes boot, let's go make sure nobody's on one of these nodes. Let's go like Hammer 5 real quick. We don't normally go here, but let's go right in there. And let's just do W, and I don't see anybody in there, so we can reboot him, right? And when this node comes up, he doesn't know who he is. He's a stateless node. He has no memory of this place, right? He's like Gandalf looking around. And when he comes up, he's going to ask the environment, like, can I get a DHCP address? And when he does that, when he boots up, the environment, the Warewulf server, is going to notice that he is that he has a certain MAC address, right? Because MAC addresses don't change. That's how we assign these, and we typically feed them in with long lists and from inventory files. We don't do them by hand like you guys might have saw me building them last night for fun. But now when Hammer comes up, he's going to go and pull all that information, and Warewulf's going to be sitting here telling him who he is. He has no idea who he is right here in this console on the right. And he's going to boot up, and the Warewulf server is going to be like, I got you, bro. Your Hammer Linux 9 is your image. You have this kernel, and here's boot. And I'll capture one of these. This will be something that I capture on like a boot, and it'll everything about that node is going to be pulled from that Warewulf server. It's like, you guys ever remember the very first? Anybody here remember the very first of the Avengers movies that came out? The one that Joss Whedon did, the one that was like a masterpiece. It really was good. And you remember when Captain and what's his name, Captain and Iron Man are fighting, and Iron Man leans in and says, "Everything good about you came out of a bottle," right? You guys remember that? And that's kind of like this. Like, you don't know shit about yourself. Everything good about you came out of that Warewulf server. All right, maybe that's not exactly the right metaphor or example, but I think it's funny. So, like, everything about this Hammer 5 server, he just came up as a stateless node. He had no memory of anything. He doesn't know if we did anything bad to him or we had, hacked him or done any bad stuff to him, whatever. He went down and came back up, and he's pulled a clean image again. That's all he's done, right? So, as we're going through this, that's where the next part of this was, right? So Warewulf assigns, he runs DHCP and assigns identities for iPixie boot, keeps an inventory of all the systems in the environment, right? So it keeps an inventory and knows what's going on in the environment. And then it provisions via TFTP and gives out appropriate components, images, system overlays, runtime overlays. And I didn't really do this, but I guess I'll add this. It can give out different kernels if you don't want to define the kernel in the images. I'm going to give a nod to that, kind of like tip my hat in the presentation and mention it, but I've never done that. I've always had the kernel come with the container image, but you could have different kernels and different init RAM FS that you've built separately, and you can give that to the image to the system as it comes up, and that can be separate than the image if you want it to. I don't have a purpose for that, not yet. I hope to find one day, but I have no use case for that yet. Where that's a more useful or complex. Like, guys, you got to understand, we don't touch every feature in an environment and every feature of a tool. Sometimes there's some of us that have been doing this stuff for 20 something years, and you show us a tool that's like basically on the command line and everybody knows it and everything, and you'll find people like, especially me, that's like, I've never used that tool like that. I only use it to ping stuff. I've never used ping to figure out the fragmentation size of, and if the MTUs are actually set correctly. Well, I have. But I'm saying, in general, you'll find people that go their whole career without ever doing that stuff because they don't, there's no reason for them to. So anyways, my point is optional kernel stuff. And then Warewulf maintains or can manage the entire environment. It can have power status control, and it can check and reset power via IPMI. So if you need to kick a box over instead of going in through the console like I am here, Warewulf can control that for you as well if you have the right management set up. That works mostly, this is mostly physical servers. In my home lab, I do have IPMI control, but only to the high level here of these 4 boxes. You don't have IPMI control all the way down into these individual component pieces because they don't actually have a physical interface for IP management, right? They would be controlled inside of a... They exist only in the RAM of the servers that they've been booted on, right? They don't have their own physical boxes. So, anyways, it can also do console control. So you can, once a server comes up, you can connect via console, and then with console you can send, control alt deletes. You can send actual resets if you need as well, and that's over IPMI via console server software. And there's I use a tool called it's actually called IPMI tool, and then that tool can send things and reset things and connect to consoles and all this stuff. But that's also built in, and you can use that within Warewulf as well. So all that to say that Warewulf can do all these things. And then down here, so how does Warewulf build and I want to say customize node images, but that's fine. We'll get into that. And then one of the things that we might say then next is, and this is because again I only have an hour. It's a 1 hour, right? Presentation, 1 hour brown bag, and you guys will find this is very true. First time I ever heard this quote, it was attributed to Mark Twain. I don't know if it's actually from Mark Twain because people contest it, but I'm writing you this long letter because I haven't the time to write you a short one. Some of you may not like public speaking, but once you get into talking, you'll find that it is very difficult to give an hour-long conversation or an hour-long presentation on things because it's much easier to give like a longer rambling 2 to 3 hour one. When you go to be precise, and it's much more difficult to get down to 15 minutes. Like if you want me to talk for like 15 minutes on a subject, it's going to take me probably weeks of prep. You want me to talk for an hour? I'll go right now. Like if you just said, hey Scott, you got to go talk about like the Ethernet 2 frame with a bunch of new college students. I don't even need notes. I'll go do it right now, right? I won't even, and I got an hour with them, sure. But if you tell me I have to be very precise, I'm going to only show them certain things, and I'm only going to do certain things. And it's kind of the same way with this. Like I only have an hour, so like I'm gonna probably keep this. This will probably be under 30 slides. And you're like, well, look, you're already pushing it. Even if you're going light, that's already going to be hard to keep under an hour, right? Shoot, I've been almost talking for 40 minutes for just the setup of this, right? And just outlining it. Some of you guys were here. I started with just this, right? And then now we're laying out the pieces of what we're going to talk about, right? And then we're going to go grab all the stuff that I put in the server. Like this is going to be the one slide's going to be images, system overlays, runtimes, kernels, and then when we talk about the actual provisioning, I think this is hilarious. He's fucking pushing them into the server. Oh god, that amuses me so much. Oh, also one of the guys sending, you got here a little late, but one of the guys asked me if he could do a presentation in the Discord on AWS, and I'm like, that's awesome, do it. You know, do it on AWS stuff. That's great. He was just making sure. He was like, wait, I just want to make sure you're not vendor, like you don't care about a specific vendor. And I'm like, oh man, I'm probably more involved with AWS than Azure by any measure. Although my college does use Azure to teach kids, or my students. For most stuff that I do with you guys, we do it out in AWS if we do any of that stuff. One of the reasons I don't teach a whole lot of AWS stuff for you guys in general, and some of you guys that have been around for a while know, you know, I can do all the AWS stuff. In fact, I have a plan to set something up out there. I might even work on that tonight and tomorrow a little bit. But I don't want... There's a couple of things that I've, like design decisions for the whole group that I've done. One is I don't ask people for their email addresses. I don't want this to be one of those groups where you have to like have an email address and then you get bugged all the time. And two, I don't want people to be having to go and get their own, like if you don't already have an AWS account and all I do in here is sit around and talk about how you need an AWS account to do projects with us, that would turn off half the people that were maybe willing to do Linux, which is, I mean, let's be honest, it's already a small enough group of people that want to fucking do Linux. So I can't be having that because you don't already also have an AWS account. That's like very specific to like probably guys that have been doing this for 10 plus years and probably are in like architect roles already that don't really need to be here but are just here for hanging out reasons, you know. And I want to try to help out the junior guys more, right? Like not saying anything bad about the guys that have been in the industry 10 years. It's just they already have their careers. They're already going. Some of the guys need a help getting started, right? And I'd rather be working with those guys as far as I think that's where we can have the most impact as a group, right? So those are design decisions that are out there. Yeah, right. And that's why like the Linux admin course was the first course we did, and then the security engineering course. These courses are both like the bare minimum stuff that I think you need to know to get out there and go. And by the way, I think I think I'm starting another security engineering course I think because that one was good and was popular with people, and because I do have everything set up to go again, I'm probably going to start this one up again in maybe mid-September, and then that's going to be the same one. That'll be the same time when I start the automation course, which is why, if you guys were around yesterday, we have all these environments stood up now, right? If I go here, just rerun Ansible and just cat out all the Etsy message of the day, you're going to see the dev servers for Rocky. You're going to see all the Hammer servers for security, and then all the automation servers. And did anybody catch yesterday, or does anybody remember what that font is right there? We obviously use that cool online little ASCII generator, but does anybody recognize that? Yeah, Sending Grounds. You guys already have, some of you guys have been around a while. So, I mean, I would argue that, like, hanging out with me will only marginally improve maybe some of you senior guys' careers. But hanging out with me and the other guys in the group will greatly help some of the people that are not in the industry yet. So it's marginal versus like a larger return, right? So, All right. Yeah, this is Doom font, by the way. So this is Doom. If any of you guys remember the game Doom. So yeah, so we were setting this up because I want to be ready to roll through for people that want to do the group and want to focus on, you know, again, system automation. And we were talking, man, we've been talking about this a lot. I've been hammering this for the years that I've run the group. But like, what does the company want from you, right? Like what do you want as an admin to give a company? And really, at the end of the day, what a company wants is there's two things. They want to know if you can do the job, and they want to know if you will do the job, right? Can you do the job's pretty easy to quantify. They can look at things that you've done. They can talk to you about things and see how you understand things and how things, you know, kind of work in your mind. It's easy to see if somebody can do the job, I think. I think most of the time I know that within a few minutes of talking to somebody. But, you know, will you do the job? That's harder to quantify. And one of the things I tell people is the easiest way to kind of show that to a company is to be doing it, right? To have experience doing it, to build it in your home lab maybe, and work this stuff out. All right, so let's get that out of the way. I just want to show you guys that that's there. Has Warewulf build and configure node images, and then maybe I might do a little bit about the Warewulf boot process for nodes, right? And then this is maybe node boots and requests DHCP, right? DHCP address. That's based on the old boot P protocol. Node comes up, he asks, and does anybody here know how a node asks for a boot or for a DHCP address? When a node first comes up and doesn't know who it is, what does it do on the line? Does anybody know what it does at layer 2 with a frame? There's a specific frame it sends out when it doesn't know who it is. The start of the communication for a boot P or a DHCP server request, it is this thing. It does a broadcast request, all Fs. So there's 48 bits, right? And if there's 48 bits represented in Fs, which are 4 bits each because they're hex, then that's what, 12 bits, 12 Fs in a row? Not 12 bits, it's 48 bits, but it's 12 Fs in a row. Yep. So it's all Fs in the destination broadcast, right? Warewulf is going to be the only one that responds. Gives identity and iPXE information. Server pulls down, and we've watched this happen, but I'll actually show the process when I'm doing this. Server pulls down 2 things from TFTP. That's port. Does anybody know what the TFTP port is? All you 12-year-old admins are gonna giggle, or all you teenage admins, right? Let me go check that real quick because it's make sure I'm not lying to you. DHCP is 67, TFTP 69. Get your giggles out of the way. Get your giggles out of the way. No, I'm just kidding. But that is the port, right? And if you need to see that, system CTL status TFTPD. TFTP, and then we would see it's disabled. How is it dead? It's an active dead. He should not be deactivated right now. Yeah. But he's being listened to. Interesting. All right, anyways, so yeah, he should be being listened to, but then server pulls down 2 things from TFTP, port 69. They are, if anybody cares, they are the image. So they're the kernel, and the init RAM FS, right? Those are the two things that it needs to pull down. That's what's done as part of the image. Server runs two-stage Dracket, or I've always just called it Dracket. I assume that's how it's pronounced. We can see that process here for boot management. This is the way that it happens in my environment, right here with the two-stage. So that's HTTP boot, and then here's booting with Dracket. They actually don't have the two-stage Dracket as an image, but it is still it's just two-stage instead of single init RAM FS single stage. Here's the iPixie. Yeah, so it goes and it pulls, and it's got the kernel and the RAM disk and the init overlay. But when I say that we run Dracket, we have our own Dracket built inside of each image, and that's what it switches to. And if you needed to see that, I could reboot this box to show it to you. But that's how he pulls and starts himself up. So server runs two-stage Dracket. So kernel mounts everything into temp FS, right? That's what we have in our environment. Let's just go to like Rocky 5. And everything's temp FS. But this can be done as we could do. This can be done as persistent disks if we really wanted it to, but it kind of defeats the purpose of Warewulf to do it that way. Not that I wouldn't say it defeats the purpose, but if you have persistent disks that you hand off to, then you end up needing to wipe them, and you can wipe them every time if you want as well. But it changes the way that it behaves. But it as a nod, like as I'm showing the tool, that is a thing that can kind of be walked through and shown. So really, customize images, and then let me add to this then. Another part of this will be building and defining nodes, right? Assign node node personal, or let's say node so actually no, this is going to be C, because B will be building overlays and building and customizing overlays. So then we'll have overlay stuff. So overlays customize servers. So let me show you guys something here real quick. Back here, if I get out of this server, I just go to Warewulf. I did www.ctl node list -a, and then we go Rocky 5 like we were just in. There's all these pieces of information about the server that have to get stuffed into that server in some way. These are going to not be, so if we, where's the, it's like I got to move this over here for a second. If Warewulf deals with images, system overlays, runtime overlays, and kernels, but we don't really use kernels, the variability of a server, it doesn't make sense to bake that into an image that may go to like 10,000 machines, right? So let's say 10,000 machines are going to get a Rocky 9 or a Rel 9 box, like config. Where my teeth, how's it going? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. If the images, but it wouldn't make sense that I would customize this stuff in the image, right? Well, so then there's two other places that we can customize things. System overlays are one-time runs. They are one-time shots as the server is first built. The system overlays for this include things like the interfaces and if config. Well, it makes sense that if the if config configures how networks work, that's probably where I'm going to use these variables, right? Yeah. That's the goal. Make this stuff useful to people, and maybe they'll hang out for a little bit on a Friday with me. Normally, so some of you that are more astute may say, "Hey, Scott, isn't Friday night typically date night? And don't you normally go? Typically the wife gets off work right around now, and then I only have a little bit of time." Yes, but the wife's up in Wyoming tonight, so she's a little further away because I'm down in Arizona. So she will be back on tomorrow night, but she is gone tonight, so I get to hang out and just work on systems, right? That's why I'm working late on systems instead of just being off. Also, I'm the on-call for my NOAA team. That's NOAA, right? Our National Oceanographic Atmospheric. I'm the on-call until Wednesday. So if any of you guys have worked in even in very stable systems, when you're the on-call, you can't be very far away from your phone. In fact, I'm on Slack on 2 different boxes. I have Slack on my phone. If anything goes down, they'll call me, they'll message me. I'll have information even before I can get back to my server or my system to log in. But generally speaking, I'm very close to my systems when I'm on call because I don't like missing stuff. And if I did miss something, I wouldn't want it to, I just don't like missing stuff. Let's put it that way, right? I'm on operations team. I'm going to try to keep things operational, right? Even though it's most of my job duties are engineering based, it's I'm rewriting. I was saying earlier in the Discord, I inherited this code, and you can say, Scott, you're not a software engineer. You're right, I'm not, but I've still inherited code. This happens as admins and engineers, and the code that I happen to have inherited, people don't know how it got to where it is. In fact, this joke came up today. Every time this joke comes around, I put it back in our Discord, and it's funny because this joke is one of the most true jokes I know of. But, this software equivalent of a message smeared on the walls in blood. Dear programmer, when I wrote this code, only God and I knew how it worked. Now only God knows. Therefore, if you are trying to optimize this routine and it fails, most surely, please increase this counter as a warning to the next person. And then it's total number of hours wasted here, right? And this is how I feel actually with this project, because nobody knows how we got to the state we're in. And it's a cleanup script that scrubs. That's what it actually does. It scrubs our older environment. But nobody knows the agreements that were reached to get us to where we are. Nobody so I'm updating it. Actually, I modified how it works because it used to go through, and it kind of used to go, and it would it was almost like it was picking apples, right? And it would pick all the apples and put them in a big sack, and then it would take it, and then it would dump the sack out. But if it couldn't get to all the apples by the end, it would break and not work until the next day. And what happens, if any of you guys know about so it was properly protected in that if it runs once every day, it was never going to run more than a day. But here's the problem. If you don't get to it all today and then you don't do anything, are you going to have time tomorrow? I mean, if you're deleting anything over 14 days old and you can't get everything in your sack before you get to the end, well, that's stupid, right? You will literally never catch up because you'll never get to your deletion process, and it does what we call cascading. Yeah, it's only going to increase. So my first step was I started deleting immediately. I used the same exact process to find, but I started cleaning up the deletions, right? And the deletions start happening immediately. But when I did that, I broke this other functionality of reporting that we had. It was a pressure valve. Sometimes pressure valves aren't super clean. Kind of like if you ever watch one of those pimple popper videos. I don't really watch those, but I know people tend to fucking love those or something because that stuff's super popular. But you got to take the pressure off somewhere, so you cut it and let it blow up, right? And that's kind of what I did in this process. And even that has started to get overrun. And it's man, you can only have 2 things in this world, guys: misconfigured systems and misconfigured users. So if we have an agreement that stuff can stay on your servers for 14 days and your guys just stuff way more than their quotas in there every single day, what are we going to do? I mean, it's there's no blaming the process that's been constrained in such a way that it can't clean stuff up. Anyway, so my point is that's one of the things I've been doing at work, and I think that's kind of funny. But if anybody wonders why I'm working later than normal, it's just because, or why am I working on this stuff later? Well, one, this stuff's amusing to me. I like writing stuff like this, and 2, I'm not really, this isn't really like work to me right here. This stuff, this is more fun. So let's take this real quick. We're gonna file save as real quick, and we're gonna call this in our environment. We're just gonna call this like Warewulf outline, right? That we just did. And then we're going to go over here to our actual Warewulf presentation that we started. Start a little Warewulf presentation over here. And we're going to go grab that. We're going to go, we should be able to, oh yeah, it's right here. Hold on, I don't know where it is. Right here is you create new slides. You can say grab slides from an outline. So watch this, I can go grab that, where did I just put that? Oh, you know, it's in a different, we'll just go here, and then we'll go Warewulf. Right, here's our Warewulf outline, and let's just grab all this. So look at this. It's not perfect, but it's a start, right? And now I have at least a high level overview of what I'm going to do in my presentation, right? So you guys just saw me slap together a little. And I don't like that it took all these, so I might take all these and delete all these, right? Delete slides, right? So I may delete these slides and clean up a little bit. But very quickly, we were able to, what do we do around here? And then we can start to do this, and maybe for one side of the presentation, I'll hide the slide, right? And then for the other presentation, I'll make it up. So when it's for ProLUG, I'll do that. And obviously I'm going to clean up these letters and stuff, but I didn't realize that it would do all that. But on the plus side, I now have at least like a very high level component. And look, it actually added them in as bullet points for me too, so that's kind of nice. So let's get rid of some of these other slides that aren't needed. Apparently my spaces were counted as slides, and that's fine. But I just want to get a rough estimate of like what I'm looking at for maybe my, you know, my full presentation, kernel stuff. Yep, sure. Kernel mounts everything into tempfs. All right, and then one thing I always will do at the end of any of my things is I'll always say review, right? And then I'll always have some kind of questions. Right, so questions at the end. Boom. All right. So again, remember I was telling you at the beginning of this, for people that were around, I want to keep this around probably 30 or less slides because I only have a half an hour. So I'll probably even shorten this down some. Obviously, some of these things are not big enough to be their own topics or whatever. But all right, and we could save that. Warewulf presentation for ProLUG and for work. Sure. What? Don't automatically save that crap. Also, I don't even know where that just saved. Oh, not on my OneDrive, Jesus. All right, well, I don't want it out on my OneDrive, so that's wonderful. We'll clean that up later. All right, so let's get this stuff back how we had it then, and I will keep cleaning those things up, and I'll probably even grab some screenshots off of this. Like this will be actually this right here would be a perfect screenshot for the explanation of like the definition of fields for a node. So near the end when I was talking about node configurations, look at all this stuff here. This is all super useful. But then let me pull this up over here. But then the other part of it that I was kind of alluding to and showing you guys that I didn't really kind of talk through yet was this. So we know that either the runtime overlays, that's not really where it's going to happen. It's going to be in the system overlays, but the system overlays are going to pull these variables in. So I might go look at that and see how that works, and I might be able to say something like overlay, and it's not build. I don't want any of that build stuff. What if I wanted to do like an overlay edit for my resolve.conf? Or what if I wanted to even go further back and say that I wanted to just list, let's go look real quick at my FS tab. So there's an overlay for FS tab, and we can look at everything that's in it. So by the way, let's back up a second. There's an overlay list that'll have all the overlays, and then there's files in each of those, and these files are going to be overlaid into the servers as the servers are built. but let's go look at the FS tab one, right? And then I go, okay, well that's cool, but what if I wanted to, I'll do www.ctl overlay, and then there's a bunch of them that I can do here. So I can list, I can show, cat a file from within an overlay, and then I can do something that's kind of nice with it. So watch this. Let's say that I found ifconfig here. Let's go look at ifconfig. And it's got all this stuff. And one of the things that I needed to configure the other day for my routes to be able to get out were like my routes here. But I need to see how the routes, like, okay, here's a route here, and here's a gateway, and how the F does this get into here, right? How does that work? So what I need to do then is go look at this. Watch. So I'm going to do ifconfig, and then we can either list or let's say cat. Yeah, let's go ahead and do show ifconfig a, and we'll do ifconfig, and then we'll say this whole path here. So let's do his routes, because routes will be obvious for what's happening. And then we can actually go and say render equals, let's say Rocky 5. And it will show me, if you were to render this for the Rocky 5 server, this is what you would get. Now, truth be told, that's the same configuration for each, so it might be a little better to do this with ifconfig, if cfg, yeah. So this is how that's going to be rendered. But what if I wanted to have Rocky 4? What is so Rocky 5 is 55. Rocky 4 is 54. And does that map back to, like, does that map to what I expect Rocky 4 to be? Yes. Yes, it does. But if you said, Scott, don't render it, just show me it without rendering, and I say, okay, you want to see it raw. This is a bit messy, but this is what it looks like raw. And you can go configure this. It's a big mess, right? But this is where it's pulling in all of those values. netdev.ipadder, netmask, gateway, hardware address, right? On boot, we can set on boot to true or false. And you probably want it on, but all those values are right here in NetDev's default based on their configurations right there. So think of it like, gosh, I always try to tell you guys this stuff, but like, have you guys ever seen, everybody here know what a Mad Lib is? Mad Libs were these things that we used to do as kids, and I wouldn't show you the story, right? I would just, let's open this image in a new tab real quick. And I wouldn't show you the story, right? So all of you don't look. And I would say, give me an adjective, and you would be like, wet, right? You just make it up, or wet, or tall, or forlorn, or whatever, I don't know, whatever adjective you wanted. And then I say, give me another adjective, and you would say strong, and it would be the strong smell of, and then I would say, give me a type of bird, and you would say a peacock, right? And then you would just like, and then it would make these silly ass stories that didn't like really do anything. But if you look at this right here, adjective, type of bird, it's really the same thing as we do in like computer science, where we go and we fill out variables, right? And this is where the variables come from. And this is the Mad Lib right here. So this is the Mad Lib that we're looking at right here. But these are the things that you said to me that you wanted to give to my server. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to everybody, because trust me, my environment wouldn't work if this wasn't all true. Some of you guys watched me build these out last night. We were like messing around and building all these, and then we were adding them all the way through so that you could come in from the outside world. And if anybody wants to connect to my servers, all you got to do is go in to the right here, the Discord, the ProLUG Lab environment. It tells you how to connect to our servers right here. Shows you how the connection works. Shows you what a jail is for a user and how you get sent to. Actually, I need to update this. It's admin labs, security labs, and now the automation labs are 3. So I need to update this drawing for you guys, right? For our actual lab work. But you guys have, and then this is what happens when you go in the automation servers. They have the Doom automation. That's fucking amusing. All right. Anyway, so here we go. That's how this all ties together, right? And you might look at this and go, that's a daunting amount of stuff to know. And I would agree. Maybe you don't mess with that too much. Maybe the easiest way, like this is why I was showing it last night like this, is maybe the easiest way if I said, hey, could you add like an auto 6 to this? Okay, there's wwctl node add, and you could do all this other stuff. But what if I just showed you guys this? What if you did a VI of Etsy Warewulf nodes.conf? And by the way, we have a whole bunch of backups of them, right? Because you don't want to go modifying stuff directly without backing it up first, right? That's like the first rule of everything. First rule of adminning, don't break stuff. And what if you just came in here and you said, well, that looks like YAML. And then you did a shift G to the bottom, and then you said, well, Scott wants me to do an auto 6, so maybe I could just do, I don't know, we could do this a couple ways, but let's say like set number. And I see that it's 261 to 275, so that's Y14Y. Whoops, I did that wrong. Y14Y, right? 14 lines length. And then you could just hit P right here, and you could just modify these to be 6 right there. And, oh, okay, maybe, oh, I missed it. There was one less than I needed, and then maybe I could just go like this, YYP, right? And then maybe move it out one too, right? Because we want it to line up. Because oh, whoops, no, maybe I do want to move it in because it's YAML, so YAML cares. We don't care, but YAML cares. And anyway, so then I would modify this to be auto 6, and some of you guys saw me kind of doing this manually yesterday, and we're probably like, why is he doing this manually? Because a lot of this stuff, truth be told, you can do it on the command line with Warewulf node add and some other configuration stuff. But I just went ahead and did it in here yesterday because it was pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and quit this file without writing it, right? I don't want to make that modification. We didn't add auto 6, but we could have. We could have added something there. And then all we'd have to do is reconfigure Warewulf, and then we would also do some stuff around the... we could configure Warewulf. We can change the way that he behaves. So there's a bunch of stuff here. We can configure his DHCP, his host file, his NFS, his SSH, and his TFTP. If you remember back to this drawing from earlier, it's a AI thing. I said that Warewulf wanted to control everything, right? This will be on that slide, the Warewulf builder. I think that's so funny. Fucking full moon. I did not tell it to do that. That's so funny to me. Full moon builders. And by the way, that is how Warewulf is spelled in this name. I know that probably bugs a lot of you guys. They're like, Scott can't spell Warewulf correctly. No, that's the way they spell it. I know that it's an OLF, but that's trust me. The down here, my closed captioning is going to spell it right. But the actual service, Warewulf, by CIQ, the same guys who released Rocky Linux, it's a WULF. All right. Also, oh, I need to add that. I'll add that to the presentation later. But yeah, so you guys just watched me. Like some of you guys, I've told you guys that I think that I'm okay at outlining things. I think it's one of the things I've learned to do well as an engineer. Maybe it's something that just kind of fell to me, and I happen to do it well, or I think I do it well. This is how I would outline my presentation for a 1-hour talk. I am also probably going to have to carve it down a little bit. I may pull some of this stuff out, but I will for sure keep like the rubber meets the road stuff because I'm going to be dealing with a pretty technical crowd, but they're spread out technical. So the people that come to our brown bags are sometimes research scientists. We have research scientists all over, especially with NOAA, but with other government customers. And other projects. We have, I think my company's up around maybe 50, 60 people now, maybe even pushing 70. So, we've got people that are not just Linux admins and engineers, although we have a fair amount of Linux admins and engineers. Some of our guys are performance testers and software engineers and those kind of things. And mostly when we go to our different brown bags, we have a good time. If any of you guys have hung around and met Salty Catfish, who's one of our Discord guys, and also he used to stream on Twitch. Salty and I met through our brown bags at work. I met him because he was one of our software engineers on a different team. He was building stuff and doing software stuff. And I went to one of his Python testing presentations, and he came to, which one did I do? I've done a few of them over the years, but I think the one that he first came to me was Ansible automation. I did one on automation. I've actually shown you guys that talk, how that talk kind of looks. So, all right, but we got that pretty much done and out of the way. So now we got to decide what other things we want to do tonight. We can keep building out the home lab. I have stuff that I want to do out in Amazon in the cloud. I need to define a new workflow for that, so I guess we could draw that out if we wanted to. We could... I haven't done labs in a while, so we could work on labs if we needed. Maybe we'll just let the potato rest for a second, too. Colchis, how's it going? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We are not working too hard right now. On the left, we've just got different stuff going on in the environment. Make sure all of our servers look good. Oh, geez. Apparently I filled up my recycles. All right. So, we have, I was working in here a little bit earlier today. Yeah, we've got a new update that's going to come out. So at, so this is the 23rd hour, so it's 11:55 every night. This is going to kick off, and this is going to right into our sandbox, right? Where are my teeth? You said, heck, could you answer my question about the network architecture literature? Oh, oh wow. Okay, no, I didn't even see that question. Sorry. What textbooks or literature would I recommend for advancing in network architecture? So if you said what, if you were like, hey, where would I go? You got to remember, I got out of networking pretty early. So like my networking engineering is forever stuck at like. It's like one of those pictures. That's too morbid. I don't want to say that. I was gonna say one of those pictures of like a teenager that dies, and then they're like forever 19 or whatever, and you're like, oh, gee. My networking engineering is always going to be stuck at like forever, only a few years of doing it, right? Like I had my CCNA. I did my. I was heavily into firewalls and wireless, and then I moved out of that in the early 2000s. So mine hasn't really moved on. So I might not be great at telling you architecture stuff, but if you were going to tell me, hey, Scott, I don't do any networking, and I want to learn some networking for admin and sys work, I would go to the Red Book by IBM right here. This is, and I'm in dark mode, so it doesn't normally look like this, but it looks a little better when it's not in dark mode. And even though this is from 2006, this is still an excellent book. Yeah, I think the Red Book, man, I'm a big fan of these Red Books. I have actually, if you go in our, I tried to do this, like, you guys got to understand, I try to get stuff going, and then if nobody does it, then I just don't keep working on it. But if you go up in our networking topics, I used to have these threads where I would ask you guys about stuff. And I would tell you, let's see if I can find one here. It's not that far back. I don't think it's that far back anyways. Should be right here. Yeah, so the most recent one I did was in March. Yeah, like March. And I just said, like, go read these pages of the book and then think about those things and then answer these questions, right? So that's where I would spend some time. That's my thoughts on it. Like, because there's not a lot that's fundamentally changed about TCP/IP since the early 80s. Oh yeah, sure, there's things that have gotten faster, and there's been component increases, and the RFCs have changed a little bit. The RFCs are the governing ways that we actually implement the protocols. And I tell people all the time, those are great ways to fall asleep at night if you have a hard time reading. But I would for sure tell you to go work on that a little bit. Yeah, that's where I would start. And then from there I would spin off and then, you know, find yourself a cert. I think I even have the Cisco cert here, because I was showing it to my college students a while back. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, here's CCNA topics. And this would be like, let's say again, you're not in networking and you wanted to go like study and know like the basics of a CCNA, these are the basic component pieces of a CCNA right here. These are the things you need to be able to do on a CCNA. These are the things you need to know. And what I always tell you guys is if you told me, hey, Scott, I want to get ready for a certification. I want to know if I'm ready. I've been studying it for months. I want to know if I'm ready. What I do is I go to the topics and can I talk to each of these for a minute? Can I talk to what a router is? All right, a router is a layer 3 device. Routers deal with moving around packets, which is the protocol data unit at layer 3 of the OSI model. They do two things natively, path determination and packet switching. They do that based on the source well, really the destination address, but then they can also filter based on the source address for, what we call basic or simple access control list. And then extended access control list can be based on all of these other things that are both layer 3 and layer 4. But natively, routers do path determination and packet switching. They do that by having routing tables. Routing tables are informed by 3 ways. Those 3 ways that they are informed to build routing tables are trust levels 0 through 255 in what we call administrative distance. 0 would be directly connected networks. They are the most trusted. 1 would be any statically assigned routes. They are the next highest level of trust. And then 2 through 255 are all of the dynamic routing protocols that we can configure and turn on to speak with our neighbor routers. Whatever. I mean, like, I'm just blathering here, but I'm going through all the things I know about routers. Do I know enough to go take this test? And then I would do that all the way down. And you might say, would that take you like an hour? Yeah, I'll tell you what, guys, I'd rather waste an hour doing that than waste fucking $300 and 2 hours or 3 hours taking that test and getting my ass kicked. Like, that's one thing you learn about yourself, right? Like, you don't like getting your ass kicked, right? So I don't want to get my ass kicked on a test. I want to be ready. I don't want anything in here that I don't know what an 802.1q is. I need to go read about that, right? So anyways, my point in that is my next thing I would do if we're not doing any networking, is I would go spend time with some cert, and I would go and spend time with that certification in the sense of just being well-rounded. And again, even if you never plan on taking a CCNA, this is all good networking stuff for you, even as a sysadmin. Yeah, if you ain't tapping, you ain't learning. Yeah. Colkis, you said, been thinking about what you posted about scripts and students could learn from. What kind of scripts did you think would be useful? We could be starting work on them. Yeah, so Colkis, this is my thoughts on that real quick. So guys, so you know, what I was kind of telling the guys was in Bash and System Tricks, I said something to the effect of, I think we should start putting together some scripts and stuff that people could pull down, even from GitHub. And the other day, one of our guest speakers last week, I don't know how far I'm going to have to go back for this, but one of our guest speakers last week, he dropped it up in here as well. But he gave a little test, right? And it's a little Bash-based test. Let me go find it real quick. I think he put it right up here. I don't think it's gone. Let's see if it's right here. No, that's the Stigs. Hold on. Risky click of the day. Maybe he did it. I think he did it before. I gotta find where it is, because maybe he pulled it off of here and deleted it and then moved it. Ah, here it is, right here. But this was like a simple little quiz that he gave. He wrote it in Bash, started with a score of 0, walks you through a loop that asks you these questions. The answers are in base 64 encoded, so you'd have to go use base 64 decode if you know how to do that to decode them. Otherwise, it runs through and it decodes the things and then gives you an answer and a score, right? And to that point, what I was thinking, Colkis, is we could have the main problem I was trying to solve was in our discussion right here. Main problem I was trying to solve was in our discussion the other day. I was sitting here and I was looking at home lab build out, home laptop. Yeah. So right here, for lab 16, I've got these 3 problems in the troubleshoot lab environment, right? So for you guys that don't know, we have the Linux admin course here, right? Get out of here. We've got the Linux admin course and incident response. This last time that we ran the course, we did not do in the worksheet and then in the lab, there are these scenarios. And when I originally did them, I did them as their own Warewulf images. The problem with that is when I blew away all of the Warewulf images, I didn't rebuild the troubleshoot ones. Plus, I don't want you guys to log in separately to different T-shoot environments to do the troubleshooting. What I would rather do is this. What I would rather do is you go into the Rocky node. So you go to, some node. Right? Drop into Rocky 5. And then maybe right here in our root directory, you maybe have, challenges or troubleshooting, and you CD to troubleshooting, right? Whatever. And then you set up the lab environment with a little script, and it says start T-shoot 1 or start troubleshoot 1. And troubleshoot 1, all it does is it would run, probably, I'd do it in Ansible because it'd be easy. It would install HTTPD on your server. It would go and it would modify your httpd.conf to be 8087, and then it would restart HTTPD. That's all it would do. Now your job, and it wouldn't tell you any of that. It would just tell you the troubleshooting has started. You've got an email, a ticket's come in that your web server's not running correctly. And then you would go do the troubleshooting steps, and the web server must respond on port 80. Looks like they've given the answer right here. So, whatever. But then it's like server set on 8087. You would go and you would find that. You would go change listen to the right listen, and then you would start it. We would maybe hide that in the actual thing. But then when you're done, you would reboot the lab, and the lab would be done. Again, I had baked this into its own image, but it's almost like a bridge too far. Like, images aren't really designed to be one-offs like this. This could just be pushed with a simple script, right? So yeah. So Colchis, that was my idea. And then what could happen? You say, well, how might you do that? Well, it could be as simple as we just have a GitHub out there and pull it out of there. That would be one way to do it. Or we could have it locally in the labs of it as an overlay. Either way, I wouldn't care how we got it down on the boxes. I think people that have it up on GitHub would be fun, because then they would have something to show people. They'd be like, hey, I've built all of these labs for the professional Linux users group in the automation, security, and administration environments, and then you could show that to people, right? That would be a thing to show somebody to get you a job, and I think that's valuable, right? I think that's really valuable, because again, my thoughts on getting a job. Somebody asked me this. People always catch. It's funny. People always catch me like, I don't know if people just catch me in bad moods or they try to put me in bad moods. I don't know what happens. But somebody asked me earlier today. This one's funny. They said, what'd they ask me? It was, where was this at? Hold on. I shouldn't tell you guys that it's got to me, but sometimes these things get to me. This one was, can you tell me the roadmap after completing the 16-week sysadmin course? All right. Okay, so if you finish the 16-week course, sure, then we can talk, I guess. But this is, hey, Johnny Man, how's it going? We're just talking about stuff. And what I was saying is, if you finish the course, I would update my resume, one page relevant to whatever job you're looking at, right? And then update what you did with the course, what you learned. And those things that you learned are exactly these things right here. I don't leave this in any way for you guys to have to, like, I spoon feed this to you. These are the exact things that I think are useful to put on a resume. I know how to do these things, right? I know how to troubleshoot, generate, script, build server, whatever, right? Like those things. Then you do some practice interviews. We got one coming up this Saturday with one of our guys, right? Sending Grounds is going to run that. Maybe get some projects completed. We have many projects for you guys to do in our Discord. And then 4 is profit, right? And the only reason I was miffed about this is because people constantly ask me, like, when I get done doing something, but it's like, but you're not doing that. So in 16 weeks we can talk about that, I think. But I don't know. Maybe I'm too much of a curmudgeon, I guess. Probably. I try not to let that show when I write things, but I definitely think it, guys. Yeah, Colchis, if you have a set of things like that people could pull down and just hit a button and set the environment up for themselves, I really think that would be a great thing to start adding, because here's the thing. The lab servers are for you guys to use, right? The lab servers are for you guys to go in and break and come back up and do all that stuff, right? There you go. Colchis has got ads. All right, we'll wait for ads. We'll wait for ads. That's fine. But yeah, I try not to leave you guys hanging. Like these are the exact things that I think you know how to do with these course objectives, right? So if you were doing this course, I think that when you're done with our Linux security engineering course, these are the things you know how to do. These are the things that you could put on a resume. And honestly, you could modify that as much as you want, but you know how to build, integrate, implement, update, design, monitor, and maintain things in a security context, right? So, all right, we're gonna wait for ads to come back. Also, yeah, job interviews. If you guys are coming tomorrow, look, here's the event right here. Sending Grounds is gonna do interview prep mock. I told you guys he works in Mang or Fang, whatever you want to call it. Excuse me. He's going to come talk to you guys. That's free. All you got to do is go and hop down in the Discord. We have very few rules in our Discord, you know, mainly just show up and get better at Linux. And then the next one is like, don't disrupt things that are going on. If you're hanging out and doing stuff, then, you know, don't disrupt what's going on. But you're welcome to hang out anywhere in there, right? Colchis, yeah, you're back from ads. Good. We're just we're not working too hard on stuff. I might take a break here in a minute. I've been talking for an hour and a half, but yeah, I want you guys to be able to do these things and get into this and build this stuff out. Yeah, there's our Warewulf stuff. All right, so what else do I want to show here? Yeah, I don't have anything else there that I need to show. We'll turn our little go rotate back on. You guys might have noticed that the old revolver tabs has died. You can't use it anymore, so I had to go to this new tool called Go Rotate. So that's fun. There was a hard cutoff eventually in Chrome where it didn't work anymore. So that was fun. I do have to plan, so this is something for possibly tonight and going forward. I do have to plan the next component piece. This is the ProLUG automation course and what this is going to look like. But the courses address how to automate Linux in a corporate environment, focus on taking design, build, administrative, and corrective tasks and turning them into automated tasks. Emphasis will be on integration during the build, run, and end of life phase so that CI/CD can occur and deployments as code is utilized. The learner will practice securely building, deploying, integrating, and monitoring Linux systems in an automated fashion. Yeah. It's going to be 160 hours. It's going to be basically 16 weeks again, this next course. And then I've been outlining what the instructional areas that we're going to do. And then also what the course. So this is kind of the last spot that I got on here. So I do need to keep building that out. There will be some stuff up on Killer Coda likely. You can also run your own local machine. And then ProLUG access to the Rocky 9. I'm just going to say 9 for now on because it's 9.6 that we're up to now. Instances. But those are the ways that you could do most of this course. Yeah, Cole, because I think the automation one will be good. I think I got a few different people. I think Colchis is going to help me with some of the bash stuff. And it's super funny that still says cold kiss when I'm saying Colchis, but whatever. Closed captioning makes it seem like I kiss all the homies or something, and that's not true. Definitely not true when the wife's not around. Definitely not a thing. All right, anyways, but I'm kidding. But yeah, here's our required resources. I do have this mostly set up. I do need to fix this internet because it'll just be ProLUG as our login. Course plan. This will be automation. Yep, and the instructional methods are the same. I want to add in, there's an image I want to add from one of my other presentations. So let me go grab, let's go take this, go out of here. Let's file, let's open one of my other talks that we did, which I think, oh shoot, I haven't opened this one in a while apparently. Got it, sure. It's Twitch, it's this one now. So I've added it to this one. And it's this one right here. I'm not gonna do, we're not doing those talks now, but there we go. That sound like a real college course. The explore. We don't need the word modality. That is exactly my hypotenuse. If you guys don't know what that is, don't worry. That's from a show. I don't even remember what show that's from exactly. Actually, is that from Corky Romano? That is exactly my hypotenuse. Oh, I know what it is, guys. I know what it is. But anyways, yeah. So we'll add that in. Class size will effectively engage 100, 200 learners, and then we've got to add to this. Right, we've got to modify all this. Oh my gosh, really? It's funny, if you put it here, watch, it'll do that. Son of a bitch. All right, we'll just add, here's what you can do. You can insert rows below, and then if you do Control Y, it'll keep doing it for you. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We're going to take all this off. All the dates will be, dates are going to be modular, so they're going to change over our time of doing this. All right. Also, shoot, was anybody here? I don't know if anybody's still here that was here this last weekend. Anybody here for that whole... Man, that was madness. I basically didn't leave my desk for like all Saturday and Sunday because we were just running the ProLUG 11th year anniversary. We've been doing this group a long time. It's not ProLUG, but whatever. Long time we've been running this group. I always joke with the guys is it was all, back in the day it was all pretty much just people coming to hang out with me and I'd buy them pizza. So I don't know if they were actually coming to do Linux or if they were coming to eat pizza, but that's how we used to do it. All right, let's go fix this. I'll just fix that real quick. Do I have VS Code up? It's in here? Nope, that's the wrong one. Yeah, that's a different one too. Huh. I don't remember where I have this. ProLUG Lab. Oh, that's an old one. This is still all accurate actually, but that's an old one. No. You know what? Screw it. It's none of these. I'm not using none of this. We will use this one. I got it right here. Oh my god. Gotta turn off fucking go rotate. I don't know if I really want to. That's a little busier slide than the other one, isn't it? What's this called? I definitely have that somewhere. I just don't know where I have that drawing. Is it in here? No. This is another way to get into the lab. This is a different. But that's not it. All right, I'll have to find it. I'll update that later. It's not that important. That's all correct. Killer coda is fine. It's all fine. These are all 8 gigs now. Not that that really matters. All right. Oh, it does need to be. Hold on. This does need to be cloud running Ubuntu on Killer Coda. Needs to be 2-node environment because it needs to be at least 2-node for what we do. Because we still have to build the back-end target pools for them. And actually, that's an interesting topic. So the servers themselves are up, right? The automation servers, but the servers that they're going to target are not yet up, right? Because if we're going to be configuring and building servers, we have to, well, have servers to configure and build, right? So I need to make some target servers related to the automation servers. It's Auto 1 through Auto 5 currently. So then we need to figure out what we're going to do. I thought about doing like Target 1.1 and Target... I guess Target 1.1 and Target 1.2 could be Auto 1s. And then Target 2.1 and Target 2.2 could be Target... or off of Auto 2. I think that might be the easiest naming thing for people. Because then from like a naming standpoint, when you build your inventories, you're just building it off of the name of your auto server and then a 1 or a 2, right? I think that might be the easiest way to do that. Yeah. I think that might be good. All right. Clean that up. Clean that up. That's all fine. All right, we gotta. Let's just get all this shit out of here. Just cleaning stuff up now, guys, in the lab, and making the docs look a little more correct. All right. I just don't want to do it. As soon as I get up there, I'm like, I don't want to write any right now. So Let's go check this other stuff. What do we got going on here that we can do? Let's just update this while we're sitting here. This needs to be, oops. That should also be lowercase. There we go. It's better. That's more accurate to what's going on in the environment now. Okay. Lab capacity behind all of it. Internet. It's ProLUG. Add ProLUG. There you go. Come in off the internet, hit that range, hit that area, drop into our jail, and then go into your admin nodes or whatever. It's fair enough. Good enough for government work. I do want to check this without the watch. Okay, capacity on all those. Nobody's in any but possibly one of the hammer boxes right now. And I was in the Rocky server earlier, so that's why that one's messed up. Or that's why that one's not available. I'm still in it, that's why it's still not available. But now when I leave, so that actually brings up an interesting point. I need to add in, we don't have monitoring right now. We don't have the monitoring that we should for these specific, well, in a few ways. They're not set back up to do. Oh shit, let's go look at this. They are coming off of opt. Containerd SCC. Yeah, so opt is read write. Good, so I should be able to build in there and get that going. So what we need to do, here's what we need to do. We need to set up node exporter on these boxes, and we need to set Prometheus to scrape these boxes. So Rocky 1 through 5 and Hammer 1 through 5 are already being scraped, but they're not, well, they would be scraped if they were node exporting, but with the rebuild of the lab, they're not doing that yet. So we do need to build node exporter everywhere. We do that real quick if we wanted. And the main thing will be that over here, we'd be able to type in like Rocky and see all of the Rocky configuration, or we'd be able to see what I need to do then too is in roots bash RC file. So as a user logs in, I'm going to have it report out that it's been logged into. And you say, why would you do that? Aren't you tracking that in all these other ways? Sure. We have all these other ways to track how a user comes in, but later on for some of our automation stuff and also just for our own tracking in general, we should be throwing stuff up into Loki. Logging doesn't have to be local to a box and then pulled out in other ways. Logging can be thrown up into APIs and event-driven systems, right? If you guys are familiar with event-driven, so serverless land. This is one of my favorite little ones to show people, but event-driven patterns around like Event Bridge or Kafka. We run Kafka in the environment. And Loki. Loki is also functional as an event bridge if you want it to be, right? So there's that. All right. But as I sit here, I feel like I've been lecturing a bit much. And maybe people don't want me to lecture to them. Maybe people just want me to go play video games. I don't know. I don't know, right? What do we want to do, guys? I'm working in the labs, but I might also just sit around and play video games too. Bunch of stuff down in the Discord. Discord's free. Go down there. I don't even want to ask what the bot's doing. You guys got to go look at the bot if you want. But guys, I'm a big fan of serverless LAN. This is a good place to get into if you're trying to get started in DevOps and want to do it in the cloud. There's a lot of good free stuff up there. Zotero. Good old Zotero. Is our logs not even... I think that it will be good for me to build that out for P01 Jump 02 as well. Oh my gosh, can I type, please? Yeah, we don't have Promtail set up here either, so we do want to fork his logs off. Yeah, these colors look like crap because I'm in dark mode. In case anybody's wondering, like, why does that look terrible? That's their stuff's not designed to be run in dark mode, like at the browser level. So, all right. Shoot, it is only 6 o'clock. We could just push that over, or we could just get a new version. It doesn't really matter how we do it. Does anybody know why I have to use S Champagne instead of root to push that? Tail.service to Etsy systemd system and then cd to Promtail. That's all right. Varlog messages, Varlog secure. That's all right. System ctl daemon reload. That's always backwards. The way we used to do it. Alright. System. Start Promtail. So we started Promtail. And over here in logs, we should be able to refresh. Start to see the logs coming in off of P01 Jumbo 2. Yep, so there's all our failed password logs for people trying to get in. As we would expect, large amounts of failed users trying to get in our box. Very tasty. And we should be able to, on this box, do our Control-Shift-R for fail. How are we doing? Oh, we got a fair amount of banned IPs. I do need to make it not... our banned IPs currently do unban after like 10 hours. But not right away. Yeah, tasty. It's always tasty data, Colchis. I was talking about... Oh, I didn't mean to turn that on. How long has that thing been on? I don't always... I mean to turn that on when people ask me questions, but I don't mean for that to be on all the time. I don't know how long that's been on over there. Sometimes when I do like Control-Shift-R or stuff like that, it'll... Actually, let me see. Control-Shift-R. It did do it. That is when it's doing it. Alright. Well, that's still hilarious to me. No, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing that on this box then. Alright, but look, so what we have is we have the data flowing around in our network, and now... I tell people all the time, like, I grew up in a place with good agriculture and good, like, canals. You need good canals in Arizona if you want anything to grow. And it's surprising in Phoenix, there actually is a lot of cotton and other things that grow out here really well. There's a lot of, like, oranges, citrus. But that being said, you have to be able to get water to it. So I grew up in a place with a lot of irrigation, right? Like, I grew up out by these cow farms, and there was all this irrigation and stuff that would come out there. So when you ever look at irrigation, like, they flow, and then only the people that are supposed to open their gates at certain times, and then they get their floods. You know, they flood their fields or they flood their whatevers. Well, same thing with data in a network. Like, until I had that moving over to logs, you just saw that turn on. Some of you guys just saw a blank screen, and then now you see stuff there. Until I did that, this was a closed off system. Now this system has all the data flowing in, and we can use these events, like that event bus here, right? This is now could be part of an event driven architecture, and things can be watching. They don't have to be Amazon things, AWS Step Functions, Kinesis data, SN. We don't need to use these type of tools. We could use our own tools. We could write our own tools, right? We can pull things out of Loki. We could be tracking things in real time in our environment. We have all, like, it's like one of these things, like, we have the power to do whatever we want, guys, right? But first, you have to get the irrigation turned on. The stuff has to be flowing. So that's what we just did there, in case anybody's wondering. If anybody's like, what's going on with that environment? Watch failed ban for a little bit. Watch those things get themselves banned out forever from our environment. All right. I think I am going to take a break, though, because I almost just stopped streaming right now, and I realize if I stop streaming, I'm not going to start streaming again. I'm going to just go, I don't know, watch. There's nothing good on Crunchyroll. I've watched everything on Crunchyroll. Me and one of my buddies in the morning for jiu-jitsu classes, me and him talk a lot about like anime and stuff on there, and one of the worst things ever is you find something that looks good and it's only got 6 episodes, and you're like, ugh, I gotta wait a week for each new episode. I don't want that. And like, that's where I am on a lot of that stuff. And then some people are like, well, why don't you start One Piece? And I'm like, oh, come on, man. Oh, that's a commitment. Like, God, I remember doing Naruto when it was 780 episodes, guys. I did Naruto, man, and like, I really think you should get a badge for completing Naruto. I did that in like 2020 through like 2022, and I watched multiple of those fucking things a day, and I barely got them. Yeah, wait until it's all... Yeah, cool, because it is hard when there's, like, you know, only... Yeah, so much. But yeah, we're going to keep... I guess what we'll do, One Piece is endless. Yeah. I've actually heard of people, they're like, well, no, what you actually need to do with One Piece is they've got cut down, shortened versions on YouTube that are only 400 hours. And I'm like, oh my God. It's only 400 hours and that's the shortened version? And they're like, yeah, but it just gets to the part of the story that's no backstory. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Because you guys got to remember, One Piece isn't just 15 or 1600 episodes, it's also multiple movies too. So there's like that, and there's all that. All right, let me take a little break. I also have my yard guys are out there working on the yard, so let me do hourglass. Feel free to take a break if you guys want. Yeah, only 400 hours. And then maybe we'll come back. I'll regroup a little bit, and hopefully we'll have some stuff. So take a break. We'll go 15 minutes. You guys are welcome to hang out here and do whatever. Leave Colchis in charge. Take a break. All right, yeah, you guys are still on break. Take a break, walk it out. I'll be back. Oh man, I gave myself a long break there, didn't I? I went and walked around and did all that, and I still got 10 minutes. All right. Well, feel free to keep taking your break. You guys are welcome to it. All right. So, let that finish up. Pushing down water bottles. What else are we gonna do? We could sit around. I guess we got some thinking to do. Like, we could do labs, right? We could set up labs. We could work on stuff for tomorrow. Some of you guys hanging out are gonna do some of these things tomorrow. Also, looks like the bot's working again, so you guys can go play with the bot if you want down the Discord. Bash study group's going tomorrow. I always tell you guys about that. Good place to go. The way we interact with a Linux server, right? Whatever else you're doing, your window into the system is typically through Bash. So I don't think, and again, I tell you guys I'm very vanilla in my engineering, but like I don't think you have to spend a million hours customizing your Bash shell. But picking up some of those tricks from the guys are going to make your productivity better, and that may help you early on in your career, especially kind of establishing it. I would rather have more options on what I could or couldn't do than I guess just, being like, oh, I'm just gonna be like Scott and not do anything. Well, I know that there's a lot of things I can do. I just choose not to do them because I'm lazy. But that's a choice of mine, right? For you guys, I would tell you, get in there and interact with Bash and learn, because that's gonna be your job as a Linux admin. You're gonna live at this shell like this, right? This is what you're gonna do as a Linux guy or gal. Linux guy or gal. I can tell you though, according to YouTube, 99.8% of people that watch me are male, so that's kind of funny. I don't know if I've ever told you guys that or if I've told you guys that recently, but yeah, like I have a heavily male-shaped audience, so that's kind of funny. But anyways, there's Discord, there's Bash Study. Tomorrow there's that awesome interview prep and mock. They're going to do round 2. If you go sit in there, even if you just sit in there and absorb, they do interviews. So if you want to go and see how other people talk about themselves in interviews, if you want to try your hand at maybe getting a little bit of confidence in an interview, that he takes his time and he walks through it with you guys. So that's very valuable, I think. We're going to do a late night study for Bash tomorrow night. That's like Bash Lite. I might even drop in on this one and just steal all their stuff for the night talk. But if not, we'll just talk about things that you can do and, again, try to improve your craft. Sunday nights, we're going to start doing ProLUG Lab maintenance, so if people want to come and hang out with me, they can. Otherwise, the main thing to understand is if you want to know that there's maintenance and you want to know when I'm going to be kicking people out of the servers, then if you at least just follow that, even if you don't show up, you'll get alerted. So some people like to kind of know what's going on in an environment, right? And then we do have August 30th. We're going to have one of a professional pen tester that I know. He's going to come and talk to you guys about being in the industry, what it takes to go clear your OSCP and GPen, and then what it takes to kind of get in the industry that way. So I know some of you guys want to do that stuff. I think everybody thinks they want to do that, but maybe you want to talk to somebody and see what they actually do. See if that is something that's there for you. Because, I've known a lot of people that have tried to go the red route, and then they find it's not all that it's cracked up to be, right? It's called work for a reason, right? There's always some downside to everything, even if it's something you really enjoy. So, take for example, I'm on call till next Wednesday. I don't get to leave this desk for the next week. So. So, could keep working on the Warewulf presentation. That's an option. We could keep working on the home lab. Keep getting the monitoring back to like a working state, a working function. Because there are components of this that are not all the way up yet. Telegraphs are running, so we have to build. So let's do this real quick. Let's go to security and connectivity. This has to change because the total band IPs is never going to go up into P01 Jump 01. This now, and the current failed login attempts to P01 Jump 01 should be really dropping down to 0 as well, because people are no longer trying to get in there. Although, let's pull this off to the side. We're still on break, so feel free to keep taking your break if you guys want. I'm surprised that I'm seeing no errors, so that's good. That's actually what we want. But we do need to modify these to P01 Jump 02. And then down here, P01 Jump 02. And apply. And then we need to modify this to be P01 Jump 02. And we need to modify this to be P01 Jump 02. Save. Alright. And then just for the sake of simplicity, we may change this to only be, for now, the last 30 days. Because it's only since we turned that on a few days ago. Let's maybe go last 7 days. And we see how many are jailed. This is also hard set, so we need to modify this down to maybe be in the thousands. Let's go to like 10, maybe let's do 1,000 for now. I'm gonna have to modify it eventually later, but let's apply that for now. So now it's a little more noticeable. We may even go a little shorter for now. Let's go 200 for now. This is gonna go up when I stop letting them unban. But for now we'll see some variability in the system as activity is kind of occurring. And then how many are banned at any one time? So that's the currently failed filter, and those are the ones that have failed in the last like 5 minutes or whatever, you know. So, oh, what's going on here? The wife's sending me pictures from the party. All right. So, for you guys that don't know, in the home lab, we do telegraph. Telegraph monitors and sends data back to InfluxDB, and that gets pulled into Grafana. That's how this dashboard is mostly working. Then I need to modify it a little bit more. Then the logs are now being sent from Promtail into the system, so that's good. Let's write this other thing that I was going to write, and yeah, that'll be fun. We'll write something and drop it in one of the nodes just for fun, just to watch it work. And yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be guys. I'm above all else lazy right now, but let's leave secure here and move off here and go maybe to auto, right? And auto doesn't have anything yet. But if I go from here and history grep-ish and I jump into like auto 5, right? Boom, automation 5, right? If I go here, still nothing, right? But let me think about this. Oh, because he's not. hold on. That's my own fault. I'm being dumb. Let's go fix. Yeah. Let's stop being dumb here. Let's do. I'm being dumb. I'm not thinking about how my data is flowing, right? Let's go to back to any one of these, Rocky or Auto, it doesn't really matter. Let's grab that Promtail package. So let's go to Warewulf. Can this SSH to P01 jump 01? I don't think it can. Let's do this. SCP Promtail.service to I gotta use a different user because I'm dumb. What? Oh, it still sent it. That's fine. I don't care. And then the other one is opt promtail dot tar.gz into there. Good. Okay. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about the errors. The errors don't matter. cd temp. There's our two files. Promtail service tar.gz. I need to put these into each of the images for the systems if I'm going to then build them in there. We really could do this as an overlay. Nah, we'll just do it like we'll just manually hard copy. And this is not the easiest. I guess this wouldn't be the most straightforward way to do it, but I guess this just works in my brain, so this is the way that Scott's going to do it. Let's copy promtail.tar.gz into our opt, cd to opt, tar-xzvf, doesn't matter the order of promtail. Going to do it, build it into here, and then cd to opt, ls cd promtail. There. Okay. Okay, get rid of it there. Now, what we need to do then is this. This is maybe not the fastest way to do it, but I guess this will be the way that we do it because it works. cd back to temp, and we've got this promtail.service. That needs to go into each of our images, right? So this is going to be a long path, but that's fine. So we'll copy promtail.service, right, into var lib werewolf. Actually, I guess we could do this all in one thing. chroots. We could do all of them right here. Auto. Watch this. We can get away with this. I don't know if it's faster though. I don't know if this is going to be any faster, but and then oops, and then close that, and then in here it'll be chroots. Or wait, is it already in chroots? Yeah, it's in there. It's I always forget. So rootfs, there it is, and then it's etc systemd system. So that's the path right there. All right. So then it's this path right here. It's the rootfs all the way through systemd system for each of those, right? So we can copy that. Automation Rocky 9. Did I spell that? Oh, Rocky -9. My bad. Boom. Yes. Yes. Whatever. Okay, so that should have copied. What? System. I should have done. Hammer Linux 9 and that. It probably would be faster to just do it without it. I mean, fuck. At this point, just make sure that it's in all those. Hammer Linux. Boom. And then the other one was the oh man. Sorry about that, guys. Alright, that copied them all. Alright, so then we do this. I guess this will be the fastest way to do it. We'll go to Automation Rocky, and we'll do system CTL enable PromTail. That'll just make the symlink. We could really just make the symlink without doing. It doesn't matter. We'll just let it build for each of them. It doesn't matter. I'm showing you guys what's happening, so I guess it saves us the trouble. I don't know why that popped up again. Oh, Control Shift R, right? Got it. I can't use it without taking over my. There's a way for me to fix that, but I don't want to turn on the studio mode in my OBS just for that. Alright, we'll do it for automation, we'll do it for Rocky, we'll do it for Hammer. We probably could have done it as an overlay, but it's fine. We'll just build it in there. Because it needs to be in all the images, so it's fine. Or it needs to be on all the nodes, so it doesn't really matter too much how it gets there. Just that our Warewulf server isn't the fastest box around, so it's going to take a little while to build all three of them. We're on 1 of 3 right now, in case anybody's wondering. Okay. One down. Come on, server. Warewulf's being slow. Come on, server. What's our Hammer Linux 9? Okay. That'll build that one. And then while we're waiting, the last one is Rocky Linux 9. So if anybody's tracking what we're doing right now is we're building out for this logs directory here, or for this logs. We're going to want to see, we'll just do it with auto to start. We're going to want to see the auto logs coming in off of the auto servers. We'll start with auto 5. Nobody's using the auto servers, so technically I could reboot them all. I could do that now if I wanted to, but we'll give them a second. I'm not going to take the other nodes down because people are using them. So, or at least if there's the risk of anybody using them, I'm not taking the environment down, right? I treat our labs like a production environment, and we only take downtime at our scheduled time, which is on the weekends. Sunday night, in fact, for that. If you ever need that time, the schedule is up in our Discord. Same place where you find out how to get into the labs, in the ProLUG Lab environment. And you can see that we have lab. Oh, there's an event too for basically lab maintenance, patching, any of that stuff. I'm the only one currently interested, but I'm sure more people will be interested when they start using the labs and when the courses start up again next month. And I think that's when we're officially going to do the security engineering course again, starting in about a month, so middle of next month. I'll put some stuff up for that, and then I will and then that'll be official. We'll start that up and get some people doing that again. For people that don't know, in the ProLUG Labs, there's actually, oops, that's not the right page. In this here, in the ProLUG section, you can actually verify and then put in, I want to prove that I actually did the course, and then you can see that there's that. And also on the little certificate that you actually get a path that's right here, and you can put that in your resume, and then people can go see that you went and completed one of our courses, or many of our courses, right? Some of our guys have done more than one course. Well, we have 2 courses, so I guess you could do up to 2. Between 0 and 2 are the numbers right now. All right, so anyways, this logs thing is going to come back here shortly, and then I'm going to reboot 5. 5 should be feeding data, and then we will see the data flow into this system right here. That's the goal, right? Get all the data moving the way that we want. All right. It's taking a second. Still building. Just build all the overlays for all the systems, and then we'll do SSH Rock Auto 5 because nobody's using it yet. Reboot. It's fine, and then we'll come over here and we'll watch Auto 5 boot. Where's he at? Watch him boot at the console. Just make sure he comes up clean. And theoretically, when he does come up clean and he does come up with everything working, we should then see over here that he's feeding data into the environment. And then again, the more data we have, the better, the more we can do stuff with. The more data that are flowing around, the more that we can, there's just all the things that we can do. There's all the other tracking and all the other events that we want to do, and just everything else about the system as logins occur and that kind of stuff. So we'll do some login tests to it here in a second too. Once that node comes up. There's that 2-stage track that I was talking about earlier. We'll let that system boot, and then we'll go. What we're watching for, or what we're expecting, is when this comes up without me interfering, right? Because this is a stateless node. Any interference I do after the node comes up is moot, right? Like you only win in this scenario. The win condition is only when this thing automatically passes data. If I have to go in and make it pass data, we have to step back and do it again. Hopefully that makes sense. Like if you have a stateless node, the things you do with a node after it boots don't freaking matter. They're irrelevant to the topic. They're just things happening after. So he's booting, he's coming up. And if he boots and he comes up and his network is good, yep, he's pinging. That means he should be passing data. Well, we make sure there's no routing things, but for sure he should be passing data over here. For sure, once we SSH into him. Promtail failed. Why did he fail? Why did he fail? Okay. So we may have a timing issue. It's very possible we got a timing issue. There we go. Okay. So we do have a timing issue. So let's look at Look at his service. His service, okay, hold on. So his service comes on after the network online target. We can also see system CTL, system D, analyze, critical chain, promtail.service, right? We can do this and we can see how does he come up, and the network was all that needed to come up for him, but he needs NFS to be on, right? Because if you do a df-h on opt is an NFS file system, so NFS has to have started. System CTL cat. Hold on. System CTL grep-i for NFS. What's our NFS client target? Right? So, what we probably need, and most importantly probably is if we system CTL for opt, right? The opt mount has to be loaded, right? So we can make that something that he comes up after, right? So after network online target is not sufficient for this to come up. Does that make sense? Like we had a system that failed to start. But why did it fail to start? Well, because there's a timing issue with when it tried to start. It tried to start after the network came up. But opt wasn't populated yet. When I got here, opt was populated, and I immediately started it with no problems, right? That kind of makes sense, I hope. So now we know why the timing issue existed, because opt wasn't mounted when the system first came up. Network online had to come up before opt came up. But clearly in this case, we got to promtail in some way first. You see, it's not needing that. So we're going to fix that. We're gonna, but we can't fix it here. We got to fix it back in the build, right? So here it doesn't matter to fix it in the node. We got to fix it back in the systems here, right? So in automation bin bash, system D system. So in here, promtail. Now, if that's going over your head, that's fine. You know, hang out. You'll figure it out over time. We need to say after. And we need to give some other values, right? So let's cd to etsy system D system. I always need to just steal. Let's go steal from something else. Right? Because sometimes you need to steal from something else. Let me go here. Hold on. Let's see, system. No, they don't have it either. I want to see if anybody has a good example of. So here, in this case, they have two afters like this. I thought you could do a comma, but I could have been wrong. I'm seeing them doing it this way, so that's how I'm going to model it in mine as well. So I'm going to say after the normal network.target, and then also after this other one. So let's go back over here. I'm going to say after. And the after is going to be the... Oh, shit. Let's go up this. I don't remember. I got a tiny brain, guys. I don't remember things. It's under nf opt.mount. After opt.mount. Right? It's going to build. We'll test it for the one, and then if it's good, we'll move it to the others. Right? That's how all these things always work. We just test them in one place, move them to the others. Oops, get out of there. You're in the way. There. Let it go. All right. Hopefully this is clear as mud for some of you. I haven't even mentioned it in a while, but I guess I showed it. But we got a Discord. You guys can go hang out in the Discord if you want. That's a much more persistent place than being online with me. Guys, I guess I've just completely stunned YouTube, because YouTube's only had one chat message this entire 3 freaking hours. Just Egglord saying hi. I think that's the only thing that's been said on all of this whole time that I've been online. That's kind of funny. I mean, we don't get a lot of talking on YouTube, but I mean, at least there's some. All right. Change this to the last 5 minutes, so this will clear up. Okay. Reboot. Auto 5. Watch him come back up. He did come down. That's we know that he's going down, and we know that he's working currently, but we need to get him back working in the normal. We need to get him clean, starting up, booting with no errors. So that's our last little thing we need to do. Get new TV. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I appreciate the Prime. You can use those anywhere, but you chose to use it here. Make sure you refresh your browser so you don't get stuck with ads. Ads are a necessary evil on Twitch. Some of you guys know that. But if you use your Prime, you don't have to do that, so it's cool. I do appreciate that. Yeah, so you shouldn't get bugged with ads for a little while. That's kind of nice. Yeah, if you guys don't know, Twitch forces you to run ads. That's acceptable, I guess, for most of us. But you have to run ads at you have to have them at least a certain amount, or they do this thing called pre-roll ads. And pre-roll ads will absolutely just kick you in the teeth, man. Like, nobody's going to sit for 3 minutes to come hang out in the channel. So, yeah, get new TV. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We got like 4,100 people down on our Discord trying to get into the Linux space. We've got a lot of people trying to get better at this stuff, and the lab environment that I have built for everybody is to use for people that want to get into our different courses. We have a whole bunch of courses that are built out, and we're always adding more around Linux. All right, let's let this build. There's just some warnings. The warnings are fine. We know we're on deprecated hardware. It is what it is. Linux runs well on old hardware, so that's fine. Most of those are actually Warewulf alerts, Warewulf messages, so that's not a big deal. All right, as soon as he comes back up, ping, auto 5. We expect him to start sending messages over here immediately. We don't expect him to have to be started again this time. He should be able to just come up, and the tool should start. Promtail should work on him automatically. All right, so we're getting responses back. Okay, and let's see. Yep, he's running. See, his messages are going over there. Good. So that's working on those nodes. I need to get it working on the other nodes now. So what that's going to look like is we're going to go into each of these different Hammer Linux 9, and in here we're going to vi our Etsy system d system promtail.service, and we're going to hit O right here, and we're going to right click. Ah, damn it. We're going to hit O right here. That was my other message. That's why I threw the notes out here, so I'd have it. There's our opt mount. Yep. Escape :WQ, and then true, and then exit to build Hammer Linux, and then we're going to go do our Rocky one last. That's a little more manual. We could have done this with an overlay. Overlay may be the better way to build those in the future, but it's fine. As long as you understand where you're doing it. Are you pre-baking it or doing it as a personalization later? That's kind of really the usefulness of the Warewulf tool, is how are you building your things, and you know how much of this. Again, we don't want to do a lot of one-off stuff like this, but this is a way to get the environment back up where we expect it to be. So Hammer Linux, and then we'll go into the Rocky Linux 9. That'll be the last one. Come on, servers. Come on, servers. You can do it. I do think I need to bump up this Rocky box. Or this, this Warewulf box. What's he at? He's not a very beefy server. Where's he at? Oh, he's 8 gigs. And 4 CPUs. But it does take a lot for him to build these images. Not terrible. Just a little bit of extra horsepower maybe. For sure on a new build we'll do more with him. All right. System D system PromTail service. Go right here, hit the letter O, right click, escape :WQ, true, exit. You don't really need the true because the last exit, so it goes off the last exit code, and I just use true so that I know that my exit code was good, was a 0. If you ever have anything, or if you do false there and then you get a bad error code, or exit code rather, then when you exit it won't rebuild the image. It'll go back to the old version of the image. So that's an important thing to note. The way that you tell Warewulf you're ready to build something is you always leave the last command is always clean inside of the, this is a chroot jailed environment to build that image. And that's something we handle in other talks and stuff. I'm not really doing talks right now. Too much energy to just sit up here and brain dump, but yeah, Auto 5 is good. All the nodes are going to be doing what they need to. We can really, we could do something like root here, and then what we'll be able to do on this box is we'll go reboot we're getting a telegraph error. We might need to go fix that telegraph error in etcsudoers telegraph. I have an error in there somewhere. Okay. Okay. And maybe we'll just search for... I don't know if I can do... I don't think I can do any kind of wild cards up here, but we'll do Hammer 5. Hammer 5 won't show anything until it does. And also, well, we could do this too. Do another one, right? So we'll have Hammer 5, and then over here we'll have Rocky 5, right? So nothing in there, nothing in there, and then we will see that when those nodes come up. And when those nodes come up, they'll be, this refreshes every 10 seconds, so we'll see that. So we just sit here and sip on our monster and hang out until those things start populating with data. And again, the main point of all this is to make the data flow. Make the data move in our network the way that we want it to, right? So, anybody that's like, what just happened? We took our 3 container images in Warewulf. We added PromTail to them. And how did we add PromTail to them? Well, we knew that opt PromTail was going to be mounted from Warewulf as an NFS share when the system comes up. So we said, okay, that's where we're going to stage our software. Our software is a very simple executable and a very simple config that points over to my 192.168.218. Well, actually, that's the Grafana server. The other server is 189, I think, and that's whatever it is. That's our Loki server, right? So that configuration is all NFS mounted into our servers. Okay, so we got that. Then, after we loaded that up in the NFS share, we booted the machines with a systemd file, and with the systemd file called promtail.service that was going to then go into opt PromTail and run and start PromTail as a service on our machines, right? And it was going to do it across all of our Rocky, Hammer, and Auto servers. But there was a problem. There was a fantastic failure on Auto 5 And what we found was the Auto 5 did not start Promtail as a service. So we went to, there's Rocky 5, it started correctly. In a second, we'll see Hammer 5 come up. But what happened was it catastrophically failed. But when I got there, I did a system CTL start and it started. So what was different? That's always the question, guys, when we're building stuff, is like, what was different? So the story I'm telling you here is, hopefully in your mind you're going, well, shit, that sounds like a timing problem. That sounds like something didn't wait for something. And you would be right, because then when we looked at the promtail.service, all I did was wait for the network to come up, and then I said, go, start that service, right? Start that promtail service. And it couldn't because opt wasn't mounted yet. So what we did was we went into the server, right? We went into, and we did on Auto 5 first. So Auto 5 was really the one that we used to figure it out. And if we do a systemctl cat promtail.service, it'll tell us the service file it used. And we added this opt mount, so it said, okay, yeah, after network online target, but then also after opt is mounted. Now with opt mounted, this path worked, and this config file was there, and these things happily started correctly, and we'll never have to worry about that data flowing in our network again. If we ever did, for any reason, it would probably be because there was something wrong with the NFS, or there was something else that had changed in the boot sequence. But for now, we know, and we just tested it 3 times, Auto 5, Hammer 5, and Rocky 5. When I reboot these servers on Sunday for maintenance, all the other servers are always forever going to feed in every bit of logging and message data into our Loki instance that we want. And that's awesome, because now we have data. Now we have data flowing in our network, and we can do stuff. If we can measure it, we can control it. We can make it better. If we don't measure stuff, fuck, I don't know if it's ever going to get better. I don't even know how bad it is. Hell, I don't even know how to define bad, right? I don't know how to define bad or good if I don't have data. But once I start getting the data to flow, I have all kinds of other things that I can do. So hopefully that's clear as mud for you guys. Clear as mud, right? That's what we were just doing, and that's the stuff that we just added to our cluster environment. We made our monitoring back to the standard that we already had, and then we're going to keep adding to that standard and adding to kind of what's going on. And because now that I have that data flowing for those nodes, I can start to give good usage data. How much are people logging into the servers, and how much are they doing, and are the servers hitting capacity, and how many reboots have we had in the last day? I can start to track all that, right? So there's things over here that we can use the logql language to query and find out about these systems, right? So that's good. I think that's awesome. Bad request. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that's for. So we just added some more functionality to our system. We have other things that we need to do. So we need to do that same process that we just did, but now we need to do it with Node Exporter. So Node Exporter needs to be added because our Prometheus wants to scrape and give us information about those nodes. So let's go hop over here. Go into Prometheus, right? Another node in our environment. We got a bunch of nodes, like probably close to 100 right now. And Prometheus, where's he at? Varlib, var Prometheus? No, it's Etsy Prometheus for sure. And then his Prometheus.yaml. Here's his configuration, right? I need to clean up these directories, but currently the all the ProLUG scraping is done just out of this local .json. Anything .json in here. So this is a little messy. I really do need to make like a nodes directory and move it all down in there. That is really the standard that we should go to. And then I need to add these nodes in here. What do these configs look like? Let's just do like my AWX node. It looks like that. It's super easy. We've got the labels. What's the job is just a node. And the team is generically infra, but I could also tag any other information in here. So like for, I might do like lab in the ones that I'm going to build, and then the lab will be defined as either, what is it, automation administration or security, because those are the three types of lab devices that we have, right? So then once we do that, we'll be able to go into our Prometheus here. Or not Prometheus, but our we got a whole bunch of them, but all of our Prometheus data, and Prometheus data will then be able to be fed over here, and I can see nodes that I care about in our environment, and we can see information about them, right? Maybe like one of these that I want to see, and I can go see information about how the labs are being used and if they're being logged into, network traffic on them. And this is more of like a heads up display of like what's going on with the systems, right? And you can overlay these with all the nodes, right? So I could watch all the lab nodes at once like this. Does it get a little busy? Sure. But maybe you have a way that you like to see it. Maybe you do whatever. This isn't even the best view. Probably my favorite view for this is it this one? Yeah, discard. Not this one. No, that's this one? No, that's a different one. I don't remember which one I was using for this the most. This one? No, that's the other virtualization usage. Not that. Those names both look like what I think, but that's not it. It's not security and connectivity, that's our other one. I mean, this is our normal. I do need to change this over here too now. This one needs to go off of the other. Yeah, we need to modify that. And we can keep track how many users are in the system. Oh shit, something's going on with that box. Alright, neither here nor there. Yeah, shoot, I don't know where this other one is. Virtualization usage? Save dashboard. Sure. No, that's not right. Not test for stream, that's a different one that we were messing with. What's that one? I didn't think I was pulling InfluxDB. I wonder if I'm on the wrong one. That's our other one. All right, we won't worry about that. That's not a big deal. All right. Where is that? That's gonna bug me. Here it is. Here it is. So then we can go off of Team Infra and we can switch it to the other teams. Instead of having team, we could have like lab environment, and then we can just watch the specific lab usage, right? This is our generic Team Infra. Now you see the P01 Jump 02, which is a newer server in our environment, and he's showing up now. And then we could also dig in on just any one instance. Like this is just the one server that we care about. We can see just his info down here. This is what I would call a good HUD, right? Like a heads-up display. This is something that I would have my guys watching inside of a NOC or something like that. I would put this up on a big TV on the wall, and then they could monitor it. And that's NOC, Network Operations Center, right? So, all right. Oh, I guess I've done most everything I wanted to do for tonight. Discord. Lots of stuff up there for you guys to do. Don't miss this interview prep tomorrow. That one's pretty good with Sending Grounds. And what else? Anything else good? Yeah, I won't worry about that stuff right now. Yeah, I guess that's where we're at for now. I will probably just hang out. Maybe I'll be down the Discord later tonight then, and I'll just be hanging around, working on system stuff. Probably playing video games too, maybe. Some of that kind of stuff. So, all right. I will talk to you guys later. I appreciate you guys coming by. I will see some of you guys later on this week. We got a lot of stuff going on this weekend down the Discord. Feel free to hop in there and play with that.